afternoon, viewer. It is yet another time for Real Talk. Our time and what we use it for determines what is said of us tomorrow. When it comes to issues and topics of public discourse, this is where you get your facts, provoking perspective, real talk, and of course, value for your time. Welcome to another episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your host, Kike Atanda-owo. And of course, I'm with my ever-faithful, opinionated co-host. Hello, ladies. How you doing? So let me officially put this out there. That Dami is my latest enemy on this platform.
What I do? What did me? All I said was that I said she's looking very stressed. And I think that maybe I have a list of countries that might be quite favorable for her to visit. E.g., Peru, Croatia. I did not mention Kazakhstan. I said maybe we could go to Oklahoma.
You understand? How you doing? How you doing today?
Don't listen to Damilola. She's just in
Nigeria or Croatia?
You know she wishes you
okay,
well
Nigeria
anyway.
or Peru? We are choose now. Our country is not good. Our country is not good.
All right, good afternoon, viewer. It's good to have you back on Real Talk with Kike. Come on the ride with us and let's get some education.
Well, anyway, that was on a lighter note. My name remains Damilola Bandire. I hope it's a wonderful day with every one of us wherever we're having to watch this. It's going to be another exciting and thrilling episode of Real Talk with Kike. Please stay with us. We're here for you.
All right, Nigeria never stays silent. Always fueled its events making history. Let's hear what Nigerian's voice has for us today on our segment on This Day in History. Please stay with us.
On this day in history, exactly 14 years ago, September 21st, 2007, the presumed head of the Nigerian armed group, the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta, MEND, Jumo Bomo, was arrested in Angola. The Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta, MEND, is one of the largest militant groups in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. The group's efforts are directed towards knocking down oil production in the Niger Delta region and claims to expose exploitation and oppression of the people of the Niger Delta and devastation of the natural environment as a result of public-private partnerships between the federal government of Nigeria and corporations involved in the production of oil in the Niger Delta.
All right, Dami, let me start with you because I know that history recorded exactly 14 years ago how he was arrested, and I must say, what's your take on this movement?
I think what I was able to gather about the Bomo story about being arrested in Angola was that there's still an iota of rumor with all of these things because the news particularly said that there was no face identified with this name Jomo Bomo. But to me, it sounds like really, are we really doing something? And we've not even seen anybody being brought to justice as regards that particular case because it's everywhere. And I searched and I saw different stories even online. But I also know that the agitations of the Niger Delta started because they felt that the whole Nigeria, in quotes, were feeding on their own resources and they were being neglected. So these things are still happening. We're still having that. I think a few months back, was it Shell said they released some monies for their community, and there were agitations on either if the monies will get to the right sources or not. So we're still having a bit of filtered news here and there, rumors here and there on the Bomo Jomo story. So I think that's my take for it.
What do you have to say?
On this day in history, 14 years ago, Jomo Bomo allegedly was arrested in Angola. And Jomo Bomo is one of the foremost leaders of MEND. That's the emancipation of the Niger Delta people. Okay, and if you talk about, just to align with what Damilola said, we're talking about the devastation in the Niger Delta. It is real. It's there for all to see. So basically, history just recorded it, that he was arrested. So let's see how they move forward,
Politics, they say, is a game of numbers. Politics, they say, is a dirty game. In politics, they say there are no permanent enemies or permanent friends. However, politics is not just a game, not just for the purpose of making friends and enemies. Shall I say politics is a social instrument for societal development. It is the engineering for governance, and it is the decider of faith for a large community of people called a state. Politics is what determines the affairs of any country, and its people. On the program today, on this lunchtime talk show, we'll be talking about the interests of the national stability and how politics can play a role to this. The rate of political corruption in Nigeria is also increasing with so many issues facing the government and, of course, our system of governance, from pre-independence era to date, to political corruption and its attendance problem in form of voting buying, election rigging, embezzlement by politicians, and a whole lot of negative things affected by the lives of Nigerians. On the show today, we are having a real discourse around national politics players in politics, party defection, political engineering towards the 2023, and analysis of the political administration of Buhari's regime towards the national stability. So to discuss this conversation, I will call him a scholar who is a stakeholder in the Obasanjo democratic regime. All right, many thanks for staying with us again. I must say thank you for creating time to be on our lunchtime talk show. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. And you?
We're both doing well. Good
Welcome
afternoon,
to Real Talk with Kike.
All right, so let's just go straight to the business of the day. You know, to start with, we know that politics is about governance and no country is perfect with its own politics. So as an active politician, how will you describe our political landscape in terms of the field getting better compared to the times of Obasanjo and Jonathan?
Getting better?
Yeah, I'm asking.
No, of course not.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, you know, we're not even talking about just politics now. We're talking about the survival of the nation itself. So the problems of Nigeria today, of course, is political mismanagement, but it's beyond the normal course of politics that you have in any state. We have a fundamental crisis on our hands. You have the separatists. There has never been any election period where you have people actively soliciting secession from the country, what they call self-determination. So what we have today is much beyond. They have raised the stakes beyond what you can ordinarily discuss as politics or Nigeria, or partisan politics. Now the survival of the nation itself is at stake. So I think that says it. I've never seen 2023 is the year of the next election, and you see the disposition of people. We are not even sure whether the majority of Nigerians will participate in that election. Because there is a strong, you cannot ignore, constitutional, issues, that are the roots of the country's problems. So if you want to treat things like election, it's just a symptom. Whatever will become of the election is in this circumstance is secondary. The primary situation that we find on ourselves today is beyond the ordinary run of politics.
You're welcome again to Real Talk with Kike, sir. I'm just wondering, the type of democracy we say we're practicing in Nigeria, is it suited for us, knowing that we're very good at copying the West in most of the things we do in the country? We want to replicate what goes on out there.
Yeah, Nigeria itself is a creation of the British, is a creation of the Western society, and their civilization, Nigeria was brought together under the auspices and constituted in the nation. So to that extent, Nigeria itself is a creation of the British. So it's not as if we were together that, excuse me,
Okay, it's fine.
I mean, it's not as if that we all came together. Look, Nigeria specifically is a creation of the British, and there was little or nothing that anybody could. It wasn't as if we came together, to form a nation. So in all aspects, right, Nigeria is so to that extent, it is not correct to refer to the kind of politics that we inherited from them, as somehow peculiar or alien. No. And Nigeria has fared very well, under that system, under the British, the Western, the model of whether parliamentary or presidential. You can cite the example of the First Republic. So we are not talking we are not talking in abstract terms. I mean, I'm sure that up to today, people talk about the premiership of Chief Obafemi Awolowo in the Western region. And you don't get more development than that, including the other two regions. Even in the north, the Ahmadu Bello government, the premiership of the north, witnessed a lot of developmental landmarks. The same, of course, in the eastern region. So it is not yet what we are operating was given to us was inherited from British colonialism, and it worked. So it is not as if it's not working. And what made it work, of course, is the constitutional structure that you choose, that best suits, the circumstances of Nigeria. And so that was why we had, federalism and regionalism. And that was why we can now know, in retrospect, it worked. And Nigeria has not worked. Nigeria has failed to the extent to which we have deviated from that, constitutional structure. So it's not, the problem of Nigeria is beyond saying that what we have is not indigenous to us. No, that is not the issue. It has worked before, right? It's not that it has worked before. So we have to that extent, there is really no basis, for attributing the problems that we have today, to the alienation of the alien nature, of the government that we operate or the practice.
No. Okay, if I'm going to pick from your word, you said the British colonialization or the British colonialism worked. Now Nigeria has failed. Aligning with what you also said, that whatever they must have left for us worked when we were following those perimeters, when we were on that parastatal. But how did we deviate? Was it born out of greed? Was it born out of negligence? Was it born out of the fact that the true one Nigeria spirit started dying off? Because these things, borrowing from your words too, these things started demarcating somehow, and it started somehow. So looking at your wealth of experience, how did we fail? Because if we don't go back to the foundation, we might not get the building right.
Well, that's a very good question. I mean, because, where we deviated, was 1966 when there was a coup, right? That terminated the First Republic. It's not as if the First Republic didn't have its own, conflicts, but I think it was manageable. But you see, that was when the accident. It's an accident. I mean, the group. It wasn't as if Nigerians came together to say that was what was. From 1966, whatever operated in Nigeria was imposed, by the interest groups, especially whoever wins what we call the balance of terror, whoever has the upper hand, in their balance of terror. And then, of course, military came, and to that extent, you have whoever controls the military or dominant in the military will dictated the pace. Okay. This was what was introduced to Nigeria in January 1966. Those who made the coup, they have had noble objective, but it was debatable anyway. So if you intervene militarily, through violent means, right? So the rules of the game have changed, right? So that was why the northern counter coup, of July the same year, now so well, it was simplified that, okay, so it's whoever is in charge, whoever has the upper hand in the military, now dictates the pace. Now, of course, so that, but the problem, of course, with that, it goes back to the constitutional structure that we had in 1960. There was a reason why we had those things, why we had that constitution. The reason, fundamental reason was that it recognized differences, right? It didn't. Nigeria was going to fail if you tried to pull them together. If you try to concentrate all the power in the center. That was not what was happening. It was going to prove wrong. The people who gave us the independence constitution, were the people who knew Nigeria most, who had the legitimacy, the greatest legitimacy of all Nigerians. And there were 4 parties to it. You had the British government, and then you have those whom they call the founding fathers, as Awolowo and Ahmadu Bello. So they sat together, conferred together for years to arrive at the independence constitution. But given the Nigeria that we have, this is how best it can work. So and that was what, and it worked. Right? So when you now when you go contrary, to that norm, right? That is where we've gotten it from. From 1966 onwards, as I said, it was more or less whoever wields the balance of terror who takes the time. Right? We had the Civil War. So the party that won the Civil War, what we call hegemony, now dictates the pace of and how it goes. And then the military government also has the effect, of unification, unitary government. A military government, by definition, is a unified. So that has also passed on onto the culture that they left behind. So.
I would like to interrupt you, sir. Earlier you mentioned that Nigeria is failing from the constitutional structure. And I know that in the past 6 months, PDP lost 3 sitting governors to the ruling party. And the likes of Ben, Ayade, Dave, and the latest being Bello of Zamfara State. So for a few days now, we saw that the defection of Femi Fani Kayode as well, defect to APC in Abuja. So aside the disarray in the PDP camp, which shows that they lack
organization
organization and all of that, does this mean or say that APC, the ruling party, has a stronger players who are willing to serve Nigeria?
No. You see, it's not as if anybody, if it is on the basis of performance, right? There's nobody who should go and join APC. No Nigerian.
If on the basis of performance.
That's a key word.
It has failed woefully. And I'm not the one. You still look at all the indices, corruption, insecurity, economy and everything. So whoever says he's going to APC now cannot be because that party has succeeded in giving Nigerians what it actually is on.
So why do you think that they are defecting to the party?
It's just for their selfish reasons. It's not public service or national interest is not what motivated them.
It has become pocket service.
Exactly. A lot of people go there to shield themselves from EFCC and things. Some knows that, well, look,
maybe
you can't beat them.
Infrastructure, you join them.
So this is what we have. It's not at all. So everybody knows, the extent, to which this government has failed, but the more worrisome aspect of it is, of course, that it's fueling, agitations for separation.
So when you say that everybody knows that this sitting government have failed, I must say that Nigerians already know that the political party names are just mere names. because the same set of politicians ruling us in this country are the same people that will move from party to party. So I'm asking, you know, what does this political party defection portend when it comes to what we hold for our politicians in Nigeria?
Well, you know, it's just it drives the country towards a one-party dictatorship.
Okay.
Right. And that is the step toward what, and that's why we call it one-party dictatorship, like a military dictatorship, which of course cannot be good for the country. But it's the kind of it is the effect, right, of the way Nigeria has, I mean, the kind of constitutional structure that we have today, right, is kind of winner takes all, right. Whoever wins the presidency, like Buhari has done, can use it, you know, to either encourage the development of democracy or take it backwards, right? Okay. Right. It wasn't supposed to be like that. A lot of latitude, federalism that we talk about, is supposed to give latitude to the states. Now, you know, if you push anybody to the wall, I mean, you go to the wall, come back and face it.
Definitely.
That is why we are seeing the VAT crisis today, right? We have had the compliant opposition or whatever it is, but even people who are so, you know, subordinated themselves. But look, they have pushed the country up to a stage that even those who are, you know, they are now, those issues are now coming forward. That look, this is a way now that you have to force the situation of what is what. Look, the VAT, for instance, it was a VAT decree prior to 1999 that was introduced by, I'm thinking Abacha or Buhari. Now, the military administrators, right, themselves, because this is, you have to understand this argument to, in light of the debate that is going on about VAT. So it was those military administrators of all the states that came together and then gave the power to collect VAT, right, to the federal military government. So look, they can do that because they had no autonomy. I mean, there was a unitary government. So this was what was transposed, you know, when
the civilians took over.
We have been with our distinguished guest. I'd like to call him Chief Akin Osuntokun, the former managing director of the News Agency of Nigeria, a former political advisor of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. But I think I like to refer to you as a scholar because you appear to me as a scholar, but we'll be coming to that question later on. You know, Efo, please carry on.
Sir, I want to say never in the history of this country have we been so divided along ethnic and religious lines in court. What would you propose would be the way forward for this country? Because I am a believer, a firm believer in the Project Nigeria. So what will be the way forward for us? All
right, before you answer that question, sir, it's important for me to quickly open our phone lines. Please remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling our studio number 0809-8877-400 showing on your screen right now. Remember that we're streaming live on Real Talk with Kike YouTube page and on Facebook, and of course on Silverbird platform on YouTube page and on Facebook. Please carry on, sir.
Yeah, you know, the way forward is to go back to federalism, which of course, and you will see it in the way the tensions that are building up. You now see the southern governors coming together. You know, but this is what one of the demands that they have made. Now, if that is accepted, you know, in good faith, you know, and the rest is a matter of working out the details. Now, that's if those who are not yet convinced. Unfortunately for us, it happens to be those people with whom you can, without whose input, you cannot do it, and you can't clap with one hand. So now, the problem and lack is that those people, of course, personified by Buhari, you know, are not, they have displayed enough hostility towards the idea of restoration of federalism. So that is the only way forward. There is no other way you know, to go about it. It's not all the problems, most of the problems. Look, there's this saying that all politics is local. So at the same time, you can also say maybe all development is also local. So, you know, the more power is devolved, you know, to the lower tiers of the government, the more that you can get development nearer and closer to the people, you know. And this again, this was precisely what was in the 1960 Independence Constitution. Give the latitude to, you know, the regions, right, to develop
themselves
at their pace, at the pace. Now, but of course, the contrary has been the case. Nigeria is, with what if we keep on the present trajectory, which we rightly refer to as never been this divided before, right? That then continues to perpetuate the status quo and deepen the cleavages. So it deepens that division. You know, that we're going to.
All right, apologies, I might have to interrupt your line of thought. We have Joan online from River State. Many thanks for calling. Please go straight to the point because of time.
Yeah. As you said, that the way forward to this country, Nigeria, is to get a president who's educated, that know how to manage Nigeria economy. That is the really way forward. It's not person who's not educated that only know how to control cow, come and put it in a position that is very, very crucial. So that is the way forward in this country. We need a leader that's well educated. Does not Nigeria is one of the wealthiest nations in the world. And today we can see what we are experiencing because we don't have leaders that know how to manage the house. So thank you very much. That's my contribution.
Oh, thank you, John. Okay, yes, I'd like to buttress on what John has said. And if we look at Nigeria of today, there are so many agitations, unending agitations. Now, it brings me back to the type of news that we carry around, knowing fully well that you have a pedigree with the News Agency of Nigeria, being the former managing director of the News Agency of Nigeria. I think our style of reporting news, I think there's a kind of division with reporters, journalists, and broadcasters, in the sense that you do not even get to understand which is the correct news anymore. Do you think that the government should proceed with the Social Media Amendment Act?
Not at all. I mean, that's like using an hammer to kill an ant. You don't need to look. Of course, the social media has its what we call dysfunctions. Okay. Very recently, you know, I think 2 or 3 days ago, the results. A reporter with Wall Street Journal or Wall Street, they did a poll, you know, on the impact of Instagram, you know, on the youth, right? And the result was that youths are now more given to depression, right? Because of it, given to not discover the kind of reality that they form, right, is different from the reality on ground. Okay. So that is to tell you, the social media has had a very substantially, you know, negative effect. But on the whole, in the balance, the advantages that it has outweigh those disadvantages.
So, apologies, I've been holding some callers. We have Tonye from River State. Many thanks for calling. Please go straight to the point.
Hello, Tonye. We can hear you.
I guess we lost that call. You know, sir, earlier you spoke about how politics is now local. And we understand that our own political system have its own peculiarity, but the developed countries that we copy in terms of political system have 2 major broad parties, and it helps the people to align with the long-term goals and objective of their parties. So, for example, we have the Republicans, we have the Democrats in the US. How can Nigeria align with the credibility of these parties? Let me tell you down to the major parties, that is PDP and APC.
No. You see, it's like comparing sleep to death. You know, see, the division. Well, we start from, there are some theoretical foundations for what is going on. Part of it is that on democracy.
Yeah.
A group of people did a study that for democracy to succeed, right, the average per capita income must not be below $10,000. Right. So if you have a per capita income of $10,000, those people, to that extent, will be able to make decisions without independently, unlike Nigeria.
Okay.
In any country where you have weak, economies and people who are actually in poverty, the majority of the people are concerned with the basics of life, not to talk of. So, democracy, so to say, doesn't serve the same purpose. Democracy requires participation, and not just participation in the Nigerian sense, for instance, of being bribed to go and pay and to vote for a certain vote.
Yes.
Right? It is the kind of participation that is devoid of monetary influence or corruption, that kind of thing, for a democracy to survive. Right? So Nigeria, we don't have that. The two parties you made reference to, even they are not, they are like special purpose vehicles for elections, for winning offices. They are not parties, they have not become parties in the true sense, in the true tradition of political parties. For instance, there is really no difference. You can't hardly make any difference between PDP and APC, other than saying that one is in power, the other is out of power. I mean, 60% of APC today probably
came from
yes.
So you don't. So there is no
We just
basis,
keep jumping boats back and forth
to compare or to aspire with what we have today.
All right, many thanks for that submission. I know we are running out of time, so let's moving on away from politics and all of that. I need to touch on the Yoruba caucus that you are in, formerly known as the Oni caucus. I must ask you, what does the caucus want to achieve?
Well, Nigeria is, I don't want, it's imploding.
Okay.
Nigeria is disintegrating, it may not be that, but it's on the verge, of the potential for disintegration is high. Again, you come back to the division. Now, such that the country has become a body. It is that you are faced with, and unfortunately, you cannot influence what is going on in the center. They seem averse to any form of reasoning. So, you now have to, the motivation for the Oni caucus, of course, that if you don't know where you are going,
at least you know where you're coming from.
Absolutely.
So we now have, looked for individuals or institutions, around whom you can forge Yoruba nationalism. Like, if things, we have to, it seems as if every region or now you are more or less being left to your devices.
Apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought again. We have Tonye calling back from River State. Tonye, please go straight to the point.
Hello.
Please go ahead. We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Kike. Hello?
To even ask the Oni caucus and all of that. I don't know if you saw a statement by Femi Fani, who said that the Yoruba agitators and the IPOB members can be equated to Boko Haram. Are we in the same caucus?
That's an unfortunate
statement.
First, it reflects ignorance, and that is unfortunate. If somebody at that level, right? But what he is saying is not that I don't like it. right? Where it reflects ignorance, which shouldn't be the case. We are talking about everybody knows what Boko Haram. Look, the meaning of Boko Haram is that to hell with Western education. So, is this what the agitators in Yoruba, the self-determination or APO, is that what they are saying?
No.
That they are rejecting civilization and things? No. Or forcing people to convert from one
religion to
the
another.
other. So it's unfortunate, it's tragic, that he says that. It's very unfortunate that, as I said, unless, he feels compelled by some, ulterior motives to say so, unless it's unfortunate, it's a large display, a tragic display of ignorance.
All right, many thanks for that. So we have Abraham calling from Edo State. Abraham, what's your take on the perspective, the topic at hand? Please go ahead, Abraham. Good afternoon.
Yeah. The truth of the whole matter is that Nigeria is a very big country. I said the truth of the truth is that Nigeria is a very big country.
Great.
There's no doubt about it. We have different ethnic groups. Even the northerners, their kind of culture and religion is not the kind of culture they have in the east, the west, and the south. So the truth of the matter, the country, they just have to share the country so that we peace. We can't continue like this for another 500 years to be problem north, south, east. Now look at the problem of VAT. Another problem will come in another 2 days. Another problem will come in another 5 days. Corruption will come in another 1 week. Is that how we continue to be doing the country? Like share the country and let know where we will handle. We cannot handle the
Lending your voice. Sir, because of time, we have to move on quickly. I like to refer to you as a scholar. And that is based on the fact that when I went through your resume, I was quite impressed. So as a trained journalist and a politician, what do you particularly do for the universities? I mean, I'm curious.
The university?
Yes, universities in Nigeria. What do you do for them? What do you do?
In the area of politics?
Which don't put words in his mouth.
Sorry, I'm just asking because he's looking at you.
Yeah.
But since I graduated from ULA, the only university I have a professional relationship or academic relationship with is the University of Oxford. And in Nigeria, with Nigeria International Institute of International Affairs. So I have an institutional, relationship with them, with Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, which of course, if you want to talk in terms of academics, that's like a postgraduate university. And of course, as I said, University of Oxford, they gave me a fellowship to write a book on Nigerian politics, in which I'm still I'm still there. But with other Nigerian universities, no.
It doesn't look like.
I just graduated from one of them. But since I'm not, I look forward to it anyway. But unfortunately, many of the university students we have today, are not interested in acquisition of knowledge. So I'll be very happy that if a group of students from Unilag or Ife invites me, to come and give them,
lecture them.
But you don't see that again. I mean, I was looking for. That was the kind of thing I would have loved to do.
Yes.
As I said, I did it with University of Oxford. But in Nigeria, other than the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, where I'm also a fellow.
Okay.
All right, many thanks for that. So we have to wrap up on this segment, and I must say many thanks for creating time to be here. It's been an interesting time with you on this platform. But before we let you go, there's a segment that we call Trending Stories. Those are stories that bind us all, that affect us all. And one of the first trending stories that caught our attention, I know we have like 3, but we ran out of time, is the fact that we saw Buhari has changed APC and not the same party I criticized. This was said by Femi Fani Kayode. And before I ask for your submission, sir, I must, ask my beautiful co-host. Dami, let me start with you. What's your take on this? Quickly.
I personally, as a young Nigerian or as a young woman, like he said, it poorly reflects on our integrity as to when you stand and you are of the notion that this cannot happen to you. I remember that he said so many demeaning statements that, oh, if I go to the APC, let me die. If this happens, let me quench. If that happens. But at the end of the day, I saw Kike's write-up on Instagram that said, never say never. Maybe your pockets, maybe your intellect, maybe something could be at fault for this. But by and large, I think it's never say never. So Femi Fani Kayode has showed us the kind of person he is. And I'm not sure that if APC presents him for any office or portfolio in 2023, it will be a still free case. I don't know what will happen.
All right, you have to be careful about my flyer quote because you don't know what I'm
No, but I just picked that word, never say never.
Really, never say never. But, let me add to what you've just said. I think that I'm not against defection from one party to the other. Anybody can move from one party to the other as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to FFK, the big deal is that the heavily criticized administration, he said a lot about, is the same party that he is now going to. That's the reason why a lot of people are holding him accountable for it. But for the records, we all need to start to reckon with the fact that internet does not forget. So I'm sorry to say this, FFK is not a man of integrity. Yes, I said that. And I try as much as possible not to be judgmental. But I'm beginning to see him as a man with he's not loyal and he's not committed to anybody. And I would like to also quote Obasanjo. I hope I'm quoting him right, where he said that FFK is my boy. He said, give him food and he will start talking. Yes. It's a bad reputation for him, if you ask me. So secondly is the fact that the party that embraced him needs to be questioned in terms of representation and integrity. And what do I mean by that? The party itself is displaying its party like they do not have dignity. Yes, I said that. The party accepting FFK is as good as FFK himself. What I asked in pain, what do we expect in terms of values, in terms of ideas and interests? So in this part of our world, I don't seem to understand why our political parties have no ideology or no standard when it comes to their philosophy, and it's glaring and it's readable and from the blueprint for the party. Ideology doesn't exist in our political framework, and just like I asked you earlier that we've seen how we are quick to copy the Western world. So I used the example of the Republicans and the Democrats as well, but we all can see, we are not blind, that everything that is happening presently, we do not stand for anything, because in developed countries like abroad, when you belong to a party, it is either you belong to same-sex marriage, or you support abortion and all of that, or you are after maybe war or anything like that, But they know that when it comes to voting, we should expect that they will stick to their party to whenever, till their last breath. Now, let's come back to our darling Nigeria. Let's analyze the two major parties. I'm trying to find the ideology that holds us, that drives us as APC and PDP. I can't find any. They are just the same set of people with the same mannerism and ideas that makes it easy for anyone to gallivant from one party to the other. Finally, I want to put, because of time, we the people should be more awakened than ever before because of all that is happening presently. The credentials of the candidates at this time is more important than any affiliation when it comes to our voting. And I think that is what I want to leave in the mind of Nigerians, that this is the time for us to go out there and vote, and remember that your vote counts, because come 2023, I do not want to hear that we are debating about another 4 years. Therefore, quickly, what's your take on this?
For me, integrity is key in whatever it is that you're doing. So a man who is unstable, who is double-minded, will always be unstable in all his ways. Whether we talk from now till 2023, trust me, FFK is not moved. He's an orator, and he probably feels he can wriggle out of this. It's not just him, basically. We're talking about our kind of politics.
All right, you know? Many thanks for that. Sir, can I quickly get your take on this trending story that caught our attention?
Oh, no, but if you have read the story sufficiently, you know that it's my friend.
Okay.
And I'm not just a casual friend. You know, we are quite close friends, family friends. And so I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to discuss him. You know, others I owe that obligation to, but I don't like what he did.
Okay. At least you register that you do not like what he did. Yes. All right, on that note, we are going to end with that. You know, we've come to the end of another episode of Real Talk with Kike. Indeed, we had an awesome show with you, with, of course, our resourceful guest, Chief Akin Osuntokun. Thanks for coming again on the show. And to my beautiful ladies, many thanks for lending your voice. So we'll come your way next. So we'll come your way on Thursday. Of course, you can catch me live on radio tomorrow. Please keep being real, and bye now.
Bye.